I didn't have any memory, no memory for the first 5 weeks that I was in the hospital. I mean, no memory. First of all, I wasn't even supposed to live. So they called all of my family and told my family to say their goodbyes. And then when I finally made it through a couple nights, they were like, okay, she's probably going to live. I don't. Now that I realize that I'm a walk-in, I can look back and remember like feeling odd when my senses came to 5 weeks after being to the hospital in the hospital. I did feel odd. I felt like I didn't know who I was. I was a totally different person. I didn't realize that was because I was a totally different person.
My guest today is Amber Banks, who had a near-death experience, and then her life really turned upside down because she realized that she was going to exchange the soul and become a new soul walk-in. Now, we've talked about this a little bit on my channel, but this didn't happen for Amber immediately. This was a 7-year process. And through all of this, she has also developed some very unusual gifts, including channeling. So today we are going to dive deep. So Amber, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to talk to you for a couple of reasons. I haven't had a lot of people who have had walk-ins, and it's not mainstream the way that near-death experiences seem to be becoming mainstream, but it's interesting that when I've posted these videos on my channel, I get a lot of comments about people saying, I'm experiencing this too. So it seems to be something that's becoming unveiled maybe, or becoming part of what I would call the Great Awakening, as a lot of things are shifting and changing. And I wonder what I see you nodding. So what do you think about that?
I think that a lot of things are getting unveiled for people in this Great Awakening. And walk-ins is going to be a big one because I think that walk-ins are interdimensional beings that have volunteered to come to Earth just for this Great Awakening shift, just to help the Earth go from the third dimension to the fifth dimension. So I think a lot of people are going to start to realize that they're walk-ins, that they didn't just have a near-death experience, or they didn't just have a traumatic experience. They became a totally different soul during that experience.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because it's not just like somebody had amnesia and they came back and they didn't remember certain things, because over time, usually those people recover memories and they still feel connected to the people around them. It's as if you had never met all of the people that were in the body and the, interacting in the life with the person who was formerly in that avatar. And it seems like it's very difficult to then reconnect with these virtual strangers.
Uh, I can agree and disagree with that. I would say that I don't know everybody's experience, but my experience, um, the previous soul stuck around long enough to kind of give me an idea of her life and her family and what she had been through. I also think that she had some karmic ties here left on Earth that she had to finish up before her soul could totally depart. And I'm really actually grateful for that, because when she did depart in January, man, this planet is dense. It is so dense. And it was really hard. Like, even though I had my hand held for 7 years, for her to just be gone was really hard for me. It was really hard for me to get used to the density on this planet.
That's incredible. I've really never heard of anybody who had a walk-in experience where they were remaining connected to the soul that was previously in the body. So this is going to be super, super interesting conversation. But before we go there, you did have a near-death experience, which is what started this whole situation. So first of all, I guess, what was your life like before? Do you remember? before coming here and incarnating? Because this is different. Normally when I say to people, what was your life like before? Like, what were you like before the near-death experience? But you weren't the soul that was here before the near-death experience. So I'll let you tell this in either way, or maybe both if you want. If you have memories that she shared with you and you know what the life was like before, great, you can share that. But if you remember what you were doing before you came here, I would really love to hear that.
I actually can tell you more about the life that she lived before, and I can tell you where I come from a little bit. I am just now starting to, and I've learned that it's coming to me slowly so that I don't get overwhelmed. Um, as I would call it, my star family is giving me little pieces and little chunks as they think I can handle it. So, I'll start with her life before the near death experience. It was very traumatic. That girl went through so much, so much. She was in so many abusive relationships. When we had our near death experience, I had gotten in a car accident and was ejected from my car at 60 miles an hour. Um, and my heart stopped twice. One of the times they were able to get it going again with CPR. The second time, which is when I believe we handed off the torch, they had to use a defibrillator to bring me back. And during that experience, I can just remember it being very peaceful, very loving, I didn't see anybody around, but I felt encompassed by love. I felt very safe. Um, but it was very short-lived. I didn't really have a very long near-death experience that I can recall. I can just recall the beauty of it. And really when I integrated into this body and had the soul level exchange, that's when all of the memories started to come back to me. And I'm now learning it's because what I experienced is not the usual, what people would think is usual. So it's been coming to me in pieces, and that's so I won't get solely overwhelmed. And I'm so thankful for that because boy, has things just dumped on me since January.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about what you've been, I guess, shown, or what you've been remembering about what you were as as the soul that came in as the walk-in before the human experience.
Well, I come from the Pleiadians. I come from the Pleiades star cluster. Um, uh, that it is not nearly as dense on that planet. There's way more love. There's way more unity. Um, I can remember that we all worked together. Like there wasn't this duality there. There wasn't duality at all there. We just were unified. We worked as one. Um, but I do know that I came from the Pleiades star cluster, and I'm pretty sure, and it's coming back to me more. I'm pretty sure I'm a hybrid Lyrian Pleiadian, which I don't know if people don't know about Lyra. It was actually taken out. Lyrans had to find other planets to inhabit on, and Pleiades being one of them. And then they became one by inhabiting together. But I definitely have that fight, that warrior, that lion fight in me, like the Lyras did.
What happened to the Lyra planet? Do you know?
Um, I haven't done much research on that. I know that it was taken out by dark forces, kind of like Atlantis.
Interesting. Okay. And so your near-death experience and the part that you remember is really not a visual experience. It's just a feeling that you had of love, all-encompassing love, and it didn't last very long. Was there anything else did you know? Were you aware that there were any other beings? Were you aware that she was there as a soul with you as well?
Um, I wasn't aware of any beings. I don't recall anybody being there. I do recall it being very pretty, very colorful. The colors were very vibrant where I was. And no, I just remember more of the feeling than the visual. But it was very short-lived. Like I said, they used a defibrillator to bring me back, so I wasn't there very long.
So at what point did you come back into the body from the near-death experience and realize, oh, I'm new, this is a new body, but I'm not here by myself. There's another soul in here occupying this as well. Or did that not happen that way?
It didn't happen quite that way. I will say that I didn't have any memory, no memory for the first 5 weeks that I was in the hospital. I mean, no memory. First of all, I wasn't even supposed to live. So they called all of my family and told my family to say their goodbyes. And then when I finally made it through a couple nights, they were like, okay, she's probably going to live, but she's going to be a paraplegic. She's not going to be able to walk. She's not going to be able to talk. She's going to be a paraplegic. And I got 15 plus blood transfusions in that time. Um, I don't, now that I realize that I'm a walk-in, I can look back and remember like feeling odd when when my senses came to 5 weeks after being to the hospital, in the hospital. I did feel odd. I felt like I didn't know who I was. I was a totally different person. I didn't realize that was because I was a totally different person. I just thought it was because I had had a traumatic brain injury and I was having to relearn everything again, which makes sense into the walk-in. Like everything now that I realize that I'm a walk-in, everything that happened to me during the wreck makes sense. Like the blood transfusions, the no memory, none whatsoever for 5 weeks, none. I don't know. I don't have one memory for 5 weeks. So if there's 5 weeks of my life that I couldn't tell you anything that happened. I can tell you hearsay. Um, and then I can remember like when I got out of the hospital, uh, everything just felt weird. Like I didn't feel connected to my family. I didn't feel, and thank goodness my kids weren't around. They were actually in Tennessee with their dad, which is a whole nother story on the previous soul and what she had went through right before her accident. He was her husband at the time. They were just separated. He loaded their kids on a plane and moved them to Tennessee. All of it makes sense now. Like they weren't in the accident with me. They didn't have to go through the recovery with me. Like all of it makes sense now. But back then I didn't realize why any of this was happening, but I didn't feel connected to the kids. I didn't feel like I missed them. I didn't feel like I knew them really. And I back then chalked it up to I had a traumatic brain injury. Now that I'm figuring out that I'm a totally different soul, it was because I was a totally different soul. Like I was trying to integrate into the fact that I was going to have kids and that I was going to be part of this family that I was taking care of me. Like everything makes sense now. Now that I've had the soul level exchange, everything makes sense. But back then, I had no idea. I just wrote everything off to a traumatic brain injury.
So
But
Igor, I'm so curious. You have these kids and you don't feel a connection to them. You don't have all those memories that a mom would have of the kids. So do the kids still live with you? Or are they still connected? Are they connected to you now?
yeah, the kids have lived with me since about a year and a half after the wreck. I got custody back of them. We got a divorce, the whole 9 yards, but they have lived with me since then. I did share with, they went through the whole, they got to be part of the whole soul level exchange. They had to go through the whole hysteria of me going through that. And I have shared with them that I'm not, I mean, I am their mom. I've Amber left me really good memories of them as kids, but so I am their mom, but I'm not their mom. And I have shared that with them, that I am a walk-in, and that the reason that when they ask me, "Hey mom, when did I start walking?" The reason that I can't remember when they started walking is because I wasn't the one who was there when they started walking. And things make a whole lot more sense to them now. Like, they were writing off my no memory to the brain injury too. But now that I'm like, wait, it probably did have to do something to do with the brain injury, but a lot of it had to do with I wasn't the soul that was there when you learned how to walk, when you learned how to talk. Like, I just got left some vague memories of your growing up so that I could become bonded to you. So yeah, me and my kids are
Are
really
they
close.
bonded to you?
Oh yeah. I would say me opening up about being the walk-in has really strengthened our relationship. As a matter of fact, it's funny when I shared it with my oldest, he said, "Well, okay, I still love you." And my youngest, he's such a comic. He said, "What? You're telling me I lost it?" Because their dad died in January. That's when I had the soul level exchange. That was Amber's last karmic tie that she had to tie up. She tied it up on the astral plane and stayed there. But um, so my youngest said, "What, mom? You're telling me I lost my mom and my dad on the same day?" And I kind of had to giggle and cry. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm telling you, but I will always be your mom. I will always love you. I'll probably love you more now than I did then.
Wow. So Amber, I know you were in a situation where you had divorced from the father of the children. Was he aware of this situation and how different you were as the walk-in, or did he really not understand that? Because I'm assuming you're not living together anymore.
When he moved to Tennessee, we had no contact. If I wanted to talk to the kids or had any questions about the kids, I talked to his wife, his new wife. So once he moved to Tennessee, me and him had no contact. We didn't talk. We had no contact. So really, anything about the wreck, about anything, he came to off his own conclusions or from what he had heard from the kids. Um, I'm not even sure that he knew. I know now that his soul, from being in the astral with him, knows it. Well, we do know everything on a soul level, but um, he knows now. You know that as a matter of fact, we'll get into it. But he told me I would be coming back just differently. Um, he said,
So you know that you had this experience where he died from a suicide where he took his own life, and you said that the person who had occupied the body before had finished her karmic ties, and you had this experience on this astral plane. So for people who aren't really familiar with what we mean by an astral plane, will you explain that, and then will you explain this conversation, this connection or experience you had there?
the astral plane is where all souls, I would say, meet. That's where you do your soul contracts. I can actually astral travel now. I can go there and learn. I've been learning light language there a lot. But the astral, as I call it, the astral turf, is where all souls are. That's where we all meet. That's all where we all converge. That's where we all talk about what's going on. That's the soul level. That, as I would say, the astral is the soul level.
And I think that most commonly when I hear people talk about it, it's there at night. So they go to the astral plane, like as in a dream state. And sometimes they are aware that they're going there and they're able to have these experiences that they bring back. But I think for the majority of the people who are on the planet, they're not remembering that they're going to this astral plane and doing all of
Absolutely
this
not.
work, right?
Absolutely not. I didn't even realize that this place existed until I had the soul level exchange. And I guess we probably need to get into that because I have discussed it quite a bit in this interview already. So what happened with the soul level exchange is at the time I was dating a guy named Aaron, and Aaron is a very, as we would say, a very awake soul. And when Ty, which is the kid's dad, when he passed away, Aaron was very pushy on, you need to try to connect with him. You need to connect with him. You need to say your sorries, blah, blah, blah. And I told him, no, I'm not ready. I'm way too mad right now. But this would not be a good meeting. Like, no, I'm not ready. And it was about in the night. It was about 1:45, and I still could not go to sleep. I had to work at 5 a.m., but could not for the life of me go to sleep. So about 1:45, 2 o'clock in the morning, I just was like, screw it. I'll get up. I'll get ready for work. I'll do what I need to do before work. And if I get to work early, I guess I'm sitting there until I can clock in. And I got up and got in the shower, and that's when it all started. I could feel Ty's presence as if he was standing in the shower with me. He was just so very vibrant and very fluid and and he just kept asking me, come with me, come with me. I've got to show you, come with me. And I kept saying, and this is where I experienced both heaven and hell, but I kept saying, no, I'm not ready. Like, no, no, I don't want to connect with you right now. No, no, no. And I was having really negative thoughts, really hateful, mean, mad. I was mad at him. How dare him leave me and the kids like this? Um, and that's when I used to refer to it as an outer body experience. But the more I've done my research on it, and it was not an outer body experience, it was way deeper than that. And, anyways, when I was having those negative, angry thoughts, I was like pulled into this very suffocating area. It was very heavy. It was very loud. There was all kinds of souls that were trying to convince me to stay. And all I can remember is, and you don't have, when you're in soul figure, you actually don't have ears, but in my vision, I can remember putting my hand over my ears and just started thinking about all the things I was grateful for my kids, for living through the wreck, for my relationship with Ty. And I was just abruptly pulled upward through multiple dimensions and then landed on the astral with Ty and Amber. And that's where I watched Amber and Ty finish up their contract. And that's when Ty looked at me and said, I'm staying. I'm going to stay here. You're going to go back, but you're not going to go back the same. And through this whole experience, like I said, I was getting ready for work. And I'll tell you that I got completely ready for work. I took the shower, got dressed, got completely ready for work. I cannot remember any of it. Like, I can't remember getting dressed. I can't remember getting out of the shower. I can tell you what I remember on the astral. I can tell you what I saw there, but I can't remember anything on this third dimension. And I actually got in my car and drove. I had to go get some hearing aids for a client of mine and take him to the hospital for him. And I drove to his house. And when I got in the car, the guy that I was dating, Aaron, he called me. And I'm going to call it grounded. I was grounded at that point. I answered the phone and he asked me, did you ever connect with Ty last night? And that's the last I remember of that conversation. And he tells me that the entire time, yes, I was talking, but he couldn't really understand what I was saying through the tears that I was just letting out. I was massively crying through the whole thing. But anyways, I got in the car and I drove to the client's house. I don't remember that drive at all. I don't remember it at all. I can remember getting to the client's house, and the spirits there were very thick. There was lots of spirits there. I can remember that. And then I don't remember leaving his house, and I don't remember getting back in my car, and I don't remember driving. And then all of a sudden I had hit an animal. And I said to Aaron, who was still on the phone with me, I said, I just hit an animal. And he said, an animal? What kind of animal? And I said, I don't know, a raccoon size animal. And that's the last thing I remember of that. And then this was all probably a 20-minute span. And then I pulled back into my driveway to drop some money off for my kids. And I can remember pulling in my driveway, and I kind of remember walking up my porch and putting the money down on the counter. When I got back in the car, I was totally grounded, except for everything around me was like a video game. Everything, my neighbor's house, my car, my hands, everything was like a video game. It was the weirdest thing ever. I'm actually shaking right now talking about it because it was just so weird. I had never seen anything like that before. And I said to Aaron, I said, Aaron, everything looks like a video game, and I am driving. I'm not sure this is totally safe. Pray for me. And I don't remember anything after that. I drove away from my house, and it was probably another 15-20 minute time span. And all of the sudden, I would refer to it as I came back to my body. And when I came back to my body and this reality, the third dimension reality set in, it was almost painful. Like my body ached from head to toe. And I just totally dried up the tears. And Aaron said, are you okay? And I said, what I just experienced is a lot to take in. I am gonna have to call you back. And I hung up from him. At that point, I just got all kinds of intuition and nudges to go, because me and Ty are from the Boise area, which is about 2 hours from me now. I got and I haven't been there for quite some time, and I got these nudges and urges to go to the Boise area. I later found out that he was probably vicariously living through me, is what was happening. And the things that happened on that experience, like the motel that I just randomly picked off the internet and booked, and I didn't even realize it until we got there. But the hotel that we booked and rented was directly across the street from his first son's house, and his first son got murdered in 2015. And the motel that we rented and stayed in was directly across the street from where he grew up from. So that was when I was like, all right, this was not my planning. This was not my doing. And then just things went by. Like I went and pointed out the apartments that my kids were brought home to. Like I closed up his ties for him is what I did. I said his goodbyes for him is what I did. And I'm gonna cry even talking about it. Ugh. It was an experience for sure.
So I want to go back to that astral plane and ask you a couple of questions, because
Okay.
you said two things that I'm not sure I understand. You said everything was like a video game. What does that mean to you?
Well, like what I call it, when I was grounded, like when I would look around, like the house next to me didn't look real. It looked like it was from a video game or a video. Like it was not real looking. My car was not real looking. My hands were not real looking. Like I would look at my hands and they weren't even real looking. Everything looked, oh, a video game is the best way I can say it, but not reality. It was not reality. But I can tell you where I was on the Astral with Amber and Ty felt very real, very real.
So I guess maybe a different way to differentiate that of a video game, because I think there are so many different levels of what a video game can look like. We could have something like Pong. We could have something like, I don't know. I don't know video games very well, but like where they steal the
Mario
cars
Brothers
and
would
it's
be
everything. Real.
Mario Brothers would be my best description. Like
Okay.
when I looked around and the world around me looked like Mario World.
Like a cartoon almost.
That is a perfect way of putting it. A cartoon. Everything around me, including my hands, my body, everything looked like a cartoon.
Wow, that must have been a little bit unnerving.
Oh, it was so unnerving.
I'm kind of surprised you drove.
Me too. Me too.
So then you also said that you saw them on the astral plane, but she is also you. So can you describe what they look like physically on the astral plane?
She looked like this on the astral plane. Like I couldn't view me. I didn't know what I looked like on the astral plane, and Ty looked like Ty on the astral plane. I did learn while I was there that we that's how we perceive every soul. Like when you pass away and you go to the astral plane and you're greeted or meted by your loved ones, they are going to look like what they look like down here on earth because that's the memory you have of them. So Amber looked like Amber and Ty looked like Ty.
Okay. And when you saw them interacting, was it a telepathic conversation that you were privy to? Were they using voices? Like, how did that work?
It was all frequency. It was all telepathic. There was no words spoken. Just emotions felt. Like I could put words to the emotions that I felt, and I'm now realizing that that's how telepathy works. Is you just put words to the emotions that you feel. But yes, it was all telepathic. There is no voices on the astral. There is no talking on the astral. It's all telepathy.
And what were they resolving? Did you hear those conversations?
Yes, they were resolving him leaving. That was a big one. And that's when I found out that one of the reasons that he took himself out was he wanted to be connected to his kids. He hadn't seen Austin, the 17-year-old, he hadn't seen him in 3 years. And Caden, he hadn't seen him in 2 years. And on the astral plane, he let Amber know, hey, look, this is the only way I knew how to get back to you guys. And here I am. I'm back with you guys, so I must have done it right. But yeah, they were just all of the hurt feelings. He was transmuting all of Amber's hurt feelings into love. He was letting her know that everything that happened was based on love. Everything was lessons in the learning how to love.
Wow. Okay. So you have this conversation, and then at some point you said you were made aware that she was not coming back, and you were severing that part where the two of you are connected. How was that communicated?
You know, that wasn't communicated on the astral plane. I mean, I guess it kind of was. I can remember Ty looking over at me and saying, I'm staying here. You're going back, but not the same. And I had no idea what he like when he, for a minute there, it really baffled me. Like, what is he talking about? Not the same. And the more I looked into it, the more I went back to the astral and the more I did meditation. I did a lot of meditation on this, a lot of meditation on this. That's how I got a lot of my answers on this. But the more I meditated on it, I realized what he meant is, yes, this vessel was going to go back. This vessel had a mission to complete, but this vessel was not going to hold the same soul that it was. Amber was staying on the astral with Ty because that was her last karmic tie that she had to close up in order to pass on from her NDE.
So what do you think the purpose was of Amber number one versus Amber number two, where you are?
I think Amber number one, her purpose was to go through all the trauma, to go through all the devastating things that she went through to get this vessel where it needs to be, to so that I can complete the mission of helping humanity wake up and helping humanity remember that we aren't humans. We are souls having a human experience. I don't think Amber would have had the courage or knowledge that I do to help humanity in that sense.
Yeah.
And I learned through meditation that we made this agreement long before she was even born onto this earth. We made this agreement, and I've learned a lot of, we're all just the same soul. Like when I talk of Amber, I'm talking as my higher self. That's all I'm talking about is my higher self, because we are all particles of the same soul. So
Yeah.
really, when I talk of Amber, I talk of the same Amber, like just a higher aspect. Or
Right. I
yeah,
think that that's a great distinction. We talk on this channel a lot about consciousness, and I've talked about how above everything else, above all the planes, there's a singular consciousness that is everything. There's nothing outside of it. And you are
God.
it, and I am it. And that is what we mean when we say we are one. We are just drops of that consciousness here on the earth plane, veiled, forgetting that we are all the part of the whole. But I think in this part of the human experience, there are levels or dimensions of the experience. So we have this earth plane experience that we're on right now, where you were in the astral is a dimension. And
It is.
our souls also are evolved in different ways, where you could, as you put it, have a higher self, a higher portion of that soul. Maybe it's 5 dimensions away from that earth one. And all she may have done was called that portion back in. Does that sound
Yeah.
right?
Yes, that is exactly right. And that's what I learned through meditation is we are multidimensional beings. Just because I'm living a life here on the third dimension does not mean that my higher aspect is not living in a totally different life on the eighth dimension. At the
Right.
same time that I'm living this life here on the third dimension. And it also taught me what Jesus meant by treat others the way you want treated was you, for example, you are me just wearing a different costume,
Right.
learning the lesson to unconditional love in different ways, but you are me. And that's what
Exactly.
Jesus meant when he said that. Like, make sure you're treating everybody the way you want to be treated, because they are you.
Exactly. Exactly. I totally agree with that. So it's interesting that instead of evolving the soul, so for example, I think a lot of people who come to a channel like this to listen to these conversations, they're on some type of a soul evolution path. They've woken up, they understand that there's more to the human existence than what they thought it was, just living this everyday life. They realize that there are other aspects beyond this and other purposes that they can uncover. And so people do what I will call work on themselves. So they might study different
Shadow work.
videos, right? They will not even necessarily shadow, but even work on just understanding different concepts. Maybe
Yeah.
they dive into quantum physics to understand things on that
Mm-hmm.
level. Maybe they learn about channeling, and maybe they even try to bring that in and learn all of these things. And so over time, I look at myself 30 years ago, and my soul wasn't very evolved. I didn't know very much, but over 30 years, I've studied, I've read, I've listened, I've experienced all these different things. And so the soul has progressed in a certain way. So why do you think Amber chose to actually exchange a portion of the soul and bring that in versus the traditional, we come to earth, we go through these experiences, and then we evolve slowly by having these different evolutions over time?
Um, what I'm understanding through meditation is she was done. Like she had been through enough, and this contract was signed long before she was birthed onto Earth. I would say she probably signed this contract knowing that the soul me who came in after her would be more evolved, would be more willing to stand in front of crowds and have her voice heard because Amber would not have. There was no way you would have even got Amber on this YouTube channel. There's just no way. And I, on the other hand, am like, let's go. These people need to hear my frequency. They need to hear my story. They need to realize that they're not crazy. This stuff happens.
So what do you want people to know? So you're sharing this story with a purpose. What do you want people to understand that they may not understand right now before they heard about an experience like this?
That we are all one. Really, treat your neighbor the way you want treated because your neighbor is you wearing a different costume, learning the different way of unconditional love. So that would be the number one thing I want people to understand is that we are all one. We are all the same consciousness. We are all just learning a different way. He split us off it split us off into fragments so that it could learn all kinds of different ways on how it got to be unconditional love. So yeah, that would be the number one thing I would want people to understand is we really need to start coming together. We really need to quit judging. We really need to quit looking at your neighbor as just your neighbor. Look at them as you. They are you, just wearing a different costume. So your neighbor needs help watering the lawn. Would you want help? Then help them water the lawn.
So have you started to uncover other people who have had experiences like this? And is this becoming more commonplace, more prevalent?
I will say the group that your sister found me on, that post that I did in there, it brought so much attention that the comments actually had to be turned off. But yes, I'm thinking that a lot of people are going through the same experience, and it could not even be a walk-in. It could be what you were saying and just soul evolution. And yes, I think that the veil is getting very thin here on planet Earth, and a lot of people are going to realize that they've gone through soul evolution or maybe even a walk-in.
Okay, well, I think everything is definitely changing, evolving, new information is added into the collective, but it also sounds like you've had some abilities after this near-death experience, which a lot of people I've talked to have had. And it sounds like maybe the most prevalent one is the channeling that you're doing or the downloads that you're getting. What would you say is the biggest difference in after abilities?
I have learned to turn the worldly noise off and hear my spirit guides. And I don't question it anymore. Like I know when I get a download of, hey, your neighbor's you, just wearing a different costume. I don't think, oh, that's just a crazy thought I was having. I realized that was a higher aspect talking to me through this vessel. Like, another download that I got is we're multidimensional. Like I was saying, I'm down here on the third dimension living a life, but I can promise you there is another aspect of me on some other dimension, or maybe every dimension, living a different life, learning different ways.
So how do you think this all adds to the collective? What do you think it's doing? Where do you think we go from a 3 to a 5D? Have you been shown anything about that?
And I've done, yes, and I've done research. We go from the third to the 5D. It's all a conscious thing. It's all in your mind. Like it's we need to get everybody thinking unity. We need to get everybody thinking love. We need to get everybody working together. We need to realize that we don't need to be controlled by government, by all of these, as I would refer to them, dark forces. We don't need that. We have everything that we need within ourselves. That was another download that I got is we are power manifestors. If we would just believe it and know that it's true, it would happen so quickly. It's the collective questions everything that there is a time lapse and things don't get manifested as quickly or as the way they would want it. So they question it, but really we're power manifestors. One part of being one is God can make anything. So why can't we? Like we have the same abilities that he has. We just have to trust them.
So you mentioned that you have gotten really good to being able to turn the outside world off to be able to then pick up what your spirit guides are sharing with you. Do you have any hints or tips that people can use to try to do that for themselves?
Meditation. Meditation would be my biggest hint. Like meditation brought me so many things and you have to turn off the outside world in order to meditate and meditate the right way. So just starting with meditation, and a lot of people get frustrated with meditation because they're like, my mind never stops. Well, it's not going to the first time you sit down and meditate. It probably is not going to the first 5 times you sit down and meditate. Practice makes perfect. So I will tell you that it wasn't the first time or even the first 5 times or even the first 10 times for me that I was able to completely shut off the world. And the way that I used to do that was I would just constantly think armor of God, armor of God, armor of God. And then when my thought would veer off armor of God, I would bring it right back to armor of God, armor of God, armor of God. I'm wearing the armor of God. And I just repeated that in my head until no other thoughts came in my head. And now it's to the point where I can meditate and I don't have to think about anything. It gets totally quiet. And that's when my guides come to me the best, is when things are totally quiet. So meditation would be my hint.
Okay, well, I appreciate you sharing that. That's helpful, but I'll also caveat that because I know there are a lot of people watching who think that in order to be spiritual, you have to meditate and people
No.
can't. And I will just share my personal experience. I tried for 10 years to meditate. Practice never made perfect for me. It had nothing to do with the thoughts. I fall asleep. I'm a super sleeper. I can sleep on any plane. If it took me 2 minutes to fall asleep, I'd probably panic that something's wrong. So it wouldn't matter. I could sleep for 12 hours. You get me up, sit me up, stand me up, whatever. I will fall asleep meditating. So I will say to the people who are like me, one of the things that I have done is that I do what I call walking meditation. That is connecting in nature. And you
Yes.
don't even have to be completely quiet with your mind. You can keep bringing it back. But I find that spirit talks to me that way. And then spirit also talks to me in a couple of other ways when we're doing mundane tasks, driving, taking a shower,
Yes.
if you're like doing the dishes, something where it's a mindless thing that you could close your eyes, not while you're driving, but if you could close your eyes and actually do it, it's something that's so repetitive, brushing your teeth, that I find that spirit can connect that way. So all meditation is to me is another tool that just helps you put your mind in a state or a frequency where spirit can get in. What do you think of that?
I would totally agree. You summed that up way better than I could have. I will say that I do a lot of meditation in nature.
Okay.
I will hug a tree and meditate hugging a tree all the time. Every Sunday I do that. And I will say that's where spirit connects to me the best too, is in nature. Um, through trees, through birds, through the grass, through everything, because we are all one and we're all one. I am the tree, just wearing a different costume.
Right. And spirit will find whatever way to get your attention that they need to. Maybe it'll be repetitive numbers. Maybe you'll see a sign that has some type of a message on it. I see license plates. I hear song lyrics. Sometimes I'll
Same.
pass a very specific card that's connected to something. So we get all kinds of different signs. I think the biggest thing is that
Absolutely.
signs are very specific to every individual. And the biggest
Mhm.
thing is that we have to be open to them and then aware, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Open and aware is the biggest thing in all of it. You've got to be open. I would say open has got to be the number one thing. You've got to be open. Don't question whether you're feeling it or thinking it. Just know that you're feeling it and you're thinking it. You've got to be open to that thought.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Amber, I would imagine that the people that are watching may have questions for you. They may be going through a similar experience. I know you're part of this group. Will you share with people how they can connect with you?
Uh, well, I'll give my email address.
Okay.
My email address is a.kyssar840507 and then, I do a lot of posting on Facebook. I do a lot of my channeling that comes through gets posted on Facebook. So if they wanted to connect with me through Facebook, my name on Facebook is because I hung up Amber's name with honor. That girl went through way too much for me to have the privilege of carrying on her name. So I hung up Amber's name with honor and changed my name to Amelia. And so my Facebook is under AMALIA Lynn Kovach, Kovach. And a lot of people can connect. And it's an open public profile. So if they don't want to friend me, they don't have to. They can still view everything that I post on that Facebook. I think that that would be a really good way for people to get a lot of questions answered from me about themselves. I do a lot. There's days that I make, gosh, 8 or 9 posts in a day because the channeling just is all day long. And I
Mhm.
think that the collective needs to hear everything that I'm hearing. So I make sure to post it on Facebook every time I get a channel that comes through.
That's wonderful. So I'll put all of those in the show notes so that people can find you. Amber, thank you so much for the vulnerability. I know it takes a lot. I know you haven't done a lot of these interviews, and I appreciate you being willing to come and share your experiences because every time we do that, we actually help other people to then feel okay about the experiences that they're going through. So, thank
Yes.
you for what you're doing to help wake up the collective. It is so needed right now.
Thank you. And yes, it is needed. That's why I'm here. And I am willing to do as many as needed because I need people to understand that they're not crazy. It's really happening.
Wonderful. And of course, this show would be nothing without everybody who tunes in to watch. So thank you, everybody, for watching.
Yes, thank you.
Next up, check out this playlist of other NDE interviews. Please like and subscribe. It really helps this channel to grow so I can bring you more content. Thank you for watching. I'm so glad you're here.